Good evening, everyone. This is Dan Old School Green. We are Flyer and Ice. New name, 5 minutes for fighting, because we want to make this relatively short, but 2 minutes is just too short. So no more 2 minutes for roughing. It's 5 minutes for fighting. With me, joining the Heat Ratio Sports family is Zach Kinderchuk of My Dad Used to Play Hockey podcast. Zach, first of all, welcome, as always, to Flyer and Ice, and welcome to the Heat Ratio Sports family.
Hey, appreciate you having me there, Dan. I always love doing your show.
Yeah, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. Perfect fit, and we love having Zach as part of the family. So let's get right to it. The reason we're popping on right now is the Flyers today officially hired John Tortorella, um, somewhat of a legendary coach. Won a cup in '04 with Tampa Bay. Has bounced around with the Rangers, Columbus, Vancouver. Hot-headed guy, slash and burn reputation, meaning that he can only coach for 2-3 years before his players revolt, of the Mike Keenan, Ken Hitchcock type of ilk. That being said, I was listening to the new Hall of Famer Al Morganti speak to the point that he does believe he will work on his personality and coaching persona with the new generation of athlete. I think at the beginning that might be the case, but I think he will fall to his old ways. And in essence, Zach, the old teaching a dog new tricks and this dog with this team. Speaking of dogs. So what do you think of it in general? The coaching, like the hiring, is he a fit? Is any coach a fit for this team? What do you think overall?
I think that the reputation of him as a slash and burn coach is actually kind of undeserved. The average tenure of a head coach in the NHL is 2.4 years. So they're all slash and burn coaches. Everybody comes and goes quickly. He sticks around a lot longer than that. And having experience knowing the director of pro scouting for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who was the director of pro scouting while Torts was there, the players love playing for him. But of course, eventually you're going to get fired. It's what happens. You know, Bruce Cassidy had an amazing run in Boston. He just got hired by Las Vegas today, 6 years. But that's as long as Torts' run was with Columbus. Like, he was there for a long time. He was with New York for 5 years. He had
And the Lightning for 7-8 years. So you are correct. As I'm looking up his duration with each team, he had.
I don't know when he got this reputation. Is like he comes in.
I guess the media. I guess the media gets yelled at so much by him. They, I guess, assume he transfers it to the locker room.
Have you ever seen the people he yelled at in the media, though? Like, they're all people that
It's going to be the future Howard Eskins of the world. I mean, the past and now the future Howard Eskin will be inevitably yelled at, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I know. I think you mentioned Al Morganti. Hopefully Al Morganti gets yelled at some point. But now you're going to yell at a Hall of Famer. So that's kind of. Can we just take a second to address that? How hysterical is it that Al Morganti is in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Like, I love the guy and I think it's phenomenal. And not to just derail this, but Al Morganti is a Hockey Hall of Famer now. All right, we can get back to Torts.
No, and real quick, if you listen to him, he's beyond playing the humble pie routine. Like, thank you very much. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's got to be a little bit of shtick, because inside he's got to be loving it. I mean, listen,
loving it.
It's one hell of an honor. Well deserved. Yeah. It's definitely well deserved.
Agreed.
But getting back to Torts, I also heard, I believe it was from Al, that he actually is good with young players, and that's indeed what we need. And based on the fact that, as you brought up, he has stuck around for 6 to 8 years with some of his stops, that's excellent, because if he's good with young players, they will develop and grow with him. This team needs accountability, and I think that's at the very least where he'll be tough on his players, with the accountability angle. It's just how he goes about doing it, because again, the modern day athlete is not like even the athlete of 10, 15 years ago. It's insane. Being a teacher, I see the change of children compared to they were 5, 10 years ago. I can only imagine what teenagers and young adults are like. So ultimately, knowing that he's working on his way he handles a locker room, knowing he's a brilliant hockey man, I like the hire. Initially, when we were talking about Vigneault going. He was my first go-to guy, and then I did a little bit of research, and I was thinking maybe not. I thought Trotz was the more successful coach as far as every stop that he's
I'm
gone
glad
to.
they didn't go with Trotz. They
Well,
shouldn't have.
I am now too, because Trotz to me would have been just a money grab. I think he's dealing with a sick mother in Winnipeg, where he's from. I think he ultimately has that on his mind. I don't think if he came here, it would be for the right reasons.
And
And
just what Trotz brings to a team isn't what the Flyers need right now. Like, he's a defensive specialist, and that's all well and good. But really, what this team needs is kind of just a jolt.
well, they
And
also need winning, and Trotz brought winning. I mean, listen, the Islanders were a floundering franchise before he got there.
yeah, the Flyers were a floundering franchise before Lou Lamoriello got there, and then I don't know how much Barry Trotz would have brought to that, much more Barry Trotz would have brought to that team. Listen, any change for me is good, and I know the big argument on Twitter today is whether or not you like John Tortorella because he's going to yell at Travis Konecny and JVR, which I hope he does. That's great, but what I just want to see is someone who's engaged, because what I heard about AV is that he was just disengaged, which is pretty typical of this franchise right now. Like, everyone seems to be disengaged, the fans, the players. So for someone to come in and care, that's great. To be honest, I don't know his system. You're a liar if you remember the mid 20 aughts Columbus Blue Jackets, unless actually probably you do, Dan, because
Yeah.
But and then he struck lightning literally in 2004. He's brought a cup. He's been there with the Rangers. I thought to perform on that level. The scrutiny that you get as a coach of the Rangers, I thought he did really well. And to compare him to Mike Keenan is unfair, because Mike Keenan won the cup as well, but did not perform well in terms of dealing with the New York media, which at times used to be tough on people and definitely were tough on Tortorella. I just kind of, I like the breath of old but new fresh air that he's bringing to this organization, because it's been a long time since we've had someone, as you mentioned, that holds players accountable. Like, there's Mike Yeo never had a chance, and I feel bad for that dude. I hope he gets another job. Alain Vigneault just did not care. That was just so obvious from day one. Signed the big contract, rested on his laurels, has I think 3 Jack Adams trophies. So just thought, well, I'm gonna just base my current position on past successes, but didn't do anything to change his team. And I don't think Tortorella's first year is going to be particularly good. But I think that they signed him for 4 years, $16 million, which is, I'm surprised, because that's less than they paid for Vigneault. I thought he would get more. I thought he'd get 6 a year. But we're probably not bidding against anybody.
That's the point.
He's a
Yeah.
wild card, man. He's a wild card. But isn't a wild card something kind of interesting right now? When's the last time the Flyers had a wild card? Like,
Now,
something
listen,
we don't know the outcome of.
this had to be a twofold hiring. You had to hire a coach that has credibility, and unfortunately, whether you like it or not, you have to hire a coach that has personality, that will have that attraction angle for a team to draw some kind of attention. If you hired someone like a Jim Montgomery, who is a very qualified former head coach, an assistant on a Stanley Cup championship team, St. Louis Blues team of a few years ago, that would have been a very credible hire, but not a sexy hire. And if the team is playing poorly with a non-sexy hire coach, you're kind of back in this malaise all over again. So, like you said, if they aren't successful, at least they have the personality of John Tortorella to at least entertain somebody out there.
And I'm just, Dan, I'm just so tired of what system was he going to run? Stop. I mean, you know how many great NHL teams had dynasties without systems, and it was just all about
It's
effort,
ultimately
caring
you.
about your teammate, protecting your teammate, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Tortorella, I think, has a better chance of instilling that than a guy like Jim Montgomery, who he's done well, but bringing him in would have been Dullsville. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. Listen, if this team was a successfully built team, playing well, and just the players themselves were the attraction to the fan base, Jim Montgomery would be a great hire.
Maybe.
But since we don't know what this team will be, you've got a lot of young talent. Nick the Scout and I, on our past Flyer and Ice, formerly 2 minutes for roughing shows, we highlighted about 6 to 9 guys in the system that we're excited about. If those guys can be matriculated into the lineup over the next couple years, with a nice free agent signing or two, and hopefully a successful draft at number 5 this year, maybe, just maybe, you have a slow look. Look, you have a team on the rise in Detroit that doesn't have a phenomenal record, but you just see the talent developing before your eyes.
Yeah.
The Rangers, who are now essentially a juggernaut, 2-3 years ago were a team that missed the playoffs, but you saw this talent developing, and then Kreider finally becomes the stud that we all thought he would be,
Yeah.
coupled with this young talent. But you have Kreider, Panarin, and Zibanejad, who are all elite
Listen,
superstars
the
right now.
Rangers were one bad Strome play away from getting into the finals. I
Yeah,
truly believe that. Like, if
and
he
they
had
have
stopped him
and they
with
have a
that-
world-class goalie. They have a world-class goalie.
world class. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to say that Vasilevsky's still not the best goalie on the planet, but Shesterkin is right there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we still have. Listen, this is not a Carter Hart bashing moment, but we still don't know what we have in the kid because of the defense that has been in front of him for the past 2
Oh
years.
yeah, without a doubt. No, I
So
think
we just don't know what we have in the kid. Now, if you put him in front of a team with structure, I'm sure he'd be one hell of a goalie. But we don't have structure. But the bottom line is, Tortorella will hold this team accountable, and like you said, whatever his system is, he's going to demand high
Well,
expectations from this team.
and you mentioned that engaging with young players. The best way to get young players on your side is to play them, and I think Tortorella is going to do that.
True.
For whatever reason, the organization for the last forever has been reticent to do so, and Tortorella is definitely going to play them. And here's a guy who left a really cushy job, clearly wants to come back, do this, I would guess, probably for the last time. So one thing that I love is a man with nothing to lose. And Tortorella's got nothing to lose. He does.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares about his legacy. I don't think he gives a shit what Philly ever feels about him. I think he's just going to come back and really just torch this city. And I'm really excited to watch that. That'll be, at least we have now for the first time, Dan. When's the last time there was a Flyers move that you were excited about? A Morgan Frost call up, a Nick Seeler demotion. Like, what was it?
I liked the Ryan Ellis trade at one point, but
yeah, there was. Yeah,
but I didn't have a zipper nudge by any means. But the point to your point, he's a 63-year-old man who's actually in terrific shape. So I do agree this probably is his last stop. Let's say he goes 4 to 5 years, God willing. Now he's in his late 60s. You're right. It's probably his last stop. And again, I bring this back to he's going to be entertaining, and he will have this city in the palm of his hand if they become winners.
I think he's going to have this city in the palm of his hand just by actually being engaged. I keep using that word. Just Joe Girardi, I'm wearing a Phillies hat right now. Joe Girardi got fired, not just because his team was underperforming, because he just didn't seem like he was engaged.
He has more personality than Joe Girardi.
Exactly. Honestly, any inanimate object surrounding me right now has more personality than Joe Girardi. And I think that's what Philly put up with a lot of bad Flyers teams in the early 90s. And then in the mid aughts as well, because they knew that there was effort being put forth, and the coach the coach sometimes reflected that, didn't it? But the players always did. And if it starts at the top level, with Tortorella is engaged every single night, then we understand that we're not a contender next year, but we want to have players that don't believe that. There's a big difference between a team that's bad and a team that's given up. And this year and last year, it felt like a team that had given up. And, we that's the one thing that we can't deal with, is a lack of effort. We honestly, as Philly fans, we can deal with a lack of actual performance. But one thing we can't deal with is an actual lack of effort. And I don't think Tortorella will ever stand for that. And that's kind of a reason that I'm excited about him. And I know there's a lot of smart people out there, and I don't know who the hell they wanted to hire that are upset about it. But I think that he makes as much sense as any coach that was available. There are a lot of qualified people. You mentioned Jim Montgomery, Barry Trotz. I still think Tocchet would have been a viable option, but I'm not displeased with Tortorella. I think he's going to come in, and I think he understands what the Flyers are all about, and what he understands how to perform on a big stage. So I'm psyched. This is the first time as I've been psyched as a Flyers fan in a long time. I can't remember the last time that there was an announcement that came out that I was like, oh yeah, actually a good piece of news that might end up being covered in the media that isn't about their historical losing streaks or how terribly bad they've been and how poorly they perform in front of 23-year-old Carter Hart. It's fun. It's a fun day. We should have this. We should enjoy this day.
No, I agree. There are certain players that you say they had to have been a Flyer. They should have played for the Flyers, like the Matthew Barnabys of the world. He should have been on the Flyers at one point in his career.
Yeah, that would have been great.
John Tortorella is the kind of guy that had to coach the Flyers at one time in his career, and now we're getting that opportunity. He is. I think he'll make a great Flyers coach from the perspective of entertainment and the knowledge he will hopefully incorporate into his team.
Can we just talk about the former part? Because entertainment, that's what it's all about, right? He's going to bring
listen, again, I would rather us have a team on the ascend and have a boring coach than a team that sucks and a coach that's going to entertain us on television. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully we get both. Okay. And that's the ultimate goal. I do listen, players have come out. This team is too soft. We play too soft, but yada, yada, yada. Well, instead of talking about it, play harder yourself, there are no goons anymore per se. So just play tough. Yeah. Instead of Cam Atkinson, play tough. You're a little guy, but play tough. Don't say we play too soft. Everyone should be playing tough. And I think that's what Torts will get out of this team. Yeah. A team that will at least look like you said, they're not going through the motions, but they're playing hard. And now they're just going to accumulate losses because right now they're not as talented as their opponents. But hopefully, again, like a Detroit team, an Ottawa team, and formerly the Rangers team, we see a team developing. Because the team that I just mentioned, Ottawa and Detroit, look out. Those are two young teams ascending that didn't make the playoffs.
And I would say philosophically, Steve Yzerman and John Tortorella are very similar. Like I'm kind of surprised that they've never connected. Because Steve Yzerman is the supposed hard ass type that John Tortorella is as well. And look, he's basically built the dynasty that we're now witnessing in Tampa Bay. And then through his love of Swedish players, who he brings over and makes somehow tough, he's doing it again in Detroit.
Yeah, and, Mo Seider, my God, what a player!
Yeah,
great young talent. But anyway, so 5 minutes for fighting has gone beyond even a 10-minute misconduct. So we're like a 10-minute misconduct and a 5-minute major plus a 2-minute minor. That's how long our show's been right now. So we got to end this little
full period. I mean, we can just make it a full period.
We can go another 2 minutes, 20 seconds. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to pop on to announce, obviously, what the world already knows, that the Flyers have hired John Tortorella. We wanted to give our perspective. Listen, we're not here to blow smoke up anyone's backside. Initially, I was not in love with him as a coach back, months ago, and then when Trotz was available. But I like it. I ultimately like it. Obviously, we know Zach likes it. New coach, new logo, and new member. Where you at? You're over there. New member to the Heat Ratio Sports family in Zach Kinderchuk. Please go to Heat Ratio Sports on YouTube. Subscribe. We're on all podcasting options, as you see below: iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Google, etc., etc. I'm Dan Old School Green. He is Zach Kinderchuk, and we'll probably be back around draft time to discuss who we like in the upcoming draft. Stay well and enjoy these Stanley Cup playoffs, everybody.